Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear students, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the course Communication Theories 2. Today I'm going to discuss with you cultivation theory. Cultivation theories tackles the long-term effects of television on viewers. The theory proposes that the danger of television lies in its ability to shape not a particular viewpoint, but one specific issue, but in its ability to shape people's moral values and general beliefs about the world. The cultivation theory also examines the long-term effects of television. The primary propositions of cultivation theory states that the more time people spend living in the television world, the more likely they are to believe social reality aligns with the reality portrayed on television. The images and ideological messages transmitted through popular television media heavily influence perceptions of the real world. This theory is a positivistic, which means that it assumes the existence of the objective reality and value neutral research. There was a study conducted by the Jennings, Bryant, and Dorina Myron in 2004, which surveyed almost 2,000 articles published in 3 top mass communication journals since 1956. They found that cultivation theory was the third most frequently utilized theory, showing that it continues to be one of the most popular theories in mass communication research. The theory stands on a number of concepts: the symbolic environment, storytelling, the symbolic functions of television, the television traits, the cultural model, the cultivation of value system, the multi-directional processes, and the cultural indicators. So what does it mean by the symbolic environment? As you all know that human beings are the only creatures that we know of that live in a world beyond the threats and gratifications of their immediate environment. Our knowledge is acquired not from personal experiences but from a variety of stories. A storytelling, as this theory was presented by George Germer, he stated that there are 3 types of stories. How things work. These are the fictional stories and reveal the invisible dynamics of human life. The next thing is how things are. These are stories of the news. They confirm the vision, rules, goals of a particular society. The next story is what to do. These are stories of value and choice, such as laws and religion. These 3 types of stories together constitute culture, which is increasingly disseminated by television. The third point is the symbolic function of television. TV has become as an essential source in providing individuals with information about the surrounding world, as it proffers to them basic facts about life, about people and society, the authority, for situations depicted in fictions, dramas, and news, whether in realistic, fantastic, tragic, or comic way presented in fictions, Dramas or news offers the best context for the dissemination of values and moral is an acceptable and enjoyable fashion. Gerber says that cultivation is some sort of desultory learning that results from the accumulation of exposure to TV. And what the viewer sees on the screens becomes the basic of a mental image that the individual forms about the social practical status of values, population characteristics, and various cultural standards common by the society's classes, categories, and individuals. However, there seems to be a risk in having the masses dependent on media, which means especially television, is constructed the image of the surrounding environment. For the media, that doesn't reflect a reality. The media may present untruthful information, distorted stereotypes, or misguided positive images. So, if the recipient has no means for comparing what is presented to him or to her through media with other sources of informations, his or her perceptions becomes distorted, stereotyped, and biased. The cultivation theory emphasizes that television doesn't reflect what is happening in the outside world, but it presents an artificial world that focuses on certain issues depending on the will and interest of those controlling the media. Eventually, the accumulation of exposure to TV and the lack of direct experiences is various issues create an artificial world which becomes more and more real to the recipients. Let me discuss with you the cultural model. Cultural culture Culture is basically defined as the knowledge that regulates and reproduces social relations and that one must possesses to function as a member of society. The cultural model suggests that television is capable of shaping viewers' perceptions at a cultural level. Study shows that heavy television viewers have a high degree of consensus concerning numerous cultural aspects presented on TV, such as perceptions of women and how materialistic people are, whereas light television viewers do not share the same degree of consensus. Heavy viewers of a particular genre of TV might share distortions in their cultural understanding. For example, recent research suggests that heavy viewing of the romance genre of TV, such as romantic comedies, the soap operas, daytime talk shows, and reality based shows about relationships, idealized uh, expectations of marriages, and failed to present it as effortful, difficult, or risky. Next is the cultivation of value systems. Cultivation of value or cultivation theory suggests that the entire value system made of ideologies, assumptions, beliefs, images, and perspectives is formulated to a great extent by television. TV portrays hidden and pervasive values, rules, and moral for what is right, what is important, and what is appropriate, and a social discourse is an invisible manner. The repetitive lesions we receive from television, starting with childhood, would become the basic for our broad worldview. Various studies have confirmed this concept. For instance, people who spend long time watching television, in which violence is casually presented, they will suffer from the mean world syndrome perceptions of the world as mean and dangerous. And another study investigating a relationship between TV portrayal of women and prejudice against them. Most groups of heavy viewers with other characteristic held constants, they scored higher on the sexism scale. The next point is multi-directional process. Cultivation is not a synonym for TV effect, for the public contribute in shaping TV content, just as television contributes in shaping public's views. TV neither creates nor reflects the social, personal, and cultural elements presented on its screen. First, television doesn't create, as these elements do not originate out of void, but derive from a dynamic process in which society, the public, media institutions, and trust groups influence the creation and distribution of mass produced messages. These messages in turn would generate influence and suit the needs, values, and ideologies of the public. For example, presenting a somewhat realistic image of an adolescent female member of a given social class may help viewers define and form various distinct identities. Second, as the television doesn't reflect these social, personal, and cultural elements, as interest groups and media institutions influence the sorties presented. For example, gatekeepers and media institutions formulate policies that control and direct the massive flow of media and messages. Let's come to the cultural indicators. The notion of cultural indicators is an important theoretical component in cultivation theory. In fact, the original project led by George Gerbner and his associates in 1969 was titled the Cultural Indicators Project. According to the cultural indicator concept, the TV content and systematic messages patterns not only reflect underlying cultural values in society, but also act as a reference of the directions of social change in society. In recent studies, the topic is a return to cultural indicators. This study was done by James Shanahan. He examines the notions of the cultural indicators in relation to issues of portrayals of violence on television and portrayals of minority groups. The researcher concludes that in relation to social representations of some groups such as gays, African Americans, or women, TV programs and their messages do reflect social change and act as a strong cultural indicators. There are different key terms in cultivation analysis. Number one is mainstreaming. Mainstreaming is the blurring, blending, and bending process by which heavy television viewers from disparate groups developed a common outlet in the world through constant exposure to the same images and labels on TV. Mainstreaming through television plays a central role in society. There are many people that don't have access to television, but the reach of television is so expensive that it has become the primary channel responsible for shaping what is mainstream in our culture. The mainstream is more than the sum of all cross currents and subcurrents. It represents the broadcast range of shared meanings and assumptions. In the most general, functional, and stable way, heavy television viewing may override individual differences and perspectives, creating more on an American melting pot of social, cultural, and political ideologies. Next is the dramatic violence in heavy viewers. Dramatic violence is the overt expressions or serious threat of physical force is part of the plot. The idea of dramatic violence underscores in the relationships between fear and entertainment. Though death is being used as a plot point, it also functions to cultivate a particular image of looming violence. Heavy viewers are individuals who watch at least 4 hours of television a day. However, Nelson, he is a scholar, he notes that heavy viewers are now defined as those that watch more than 11 hours of television a day. Heavy viewers are constantly characterized as being more susceptible to the images and messages on television. They are also rely on television more to cultivate their perceptions of the real world. Another mechanism that might explain the cultivation phenomena is a cognitive narrative mechanism. Previous research suggests that the realism of television narratives is in combination with individual level or the ability to adopt a less critical stance toward a narrative might facilitate cultivation effects. The next point is resonance. Resonance occurs when things viewed on television are congruent with the actual lived realities of viewers. Gerbner also writes that this provides a double dose of messages that resonate and amplify cultivation. Additionally, the Job Gerbner he defines resonance as the similarity between everyday reality and television narratives. For example, they give is of a minority groups whose factional television character is stereotypically more frequently victimized on television, creating an exaggerated perceptions of violence for individuals who watch more television. The last point is the cultivation effect on children's. I found one research article where they have studied on or research on the cultivation effects on children. I read that there was a positive relationships between childhood television viewing levels and the social reality beliefs in young adulthood. There was a positive relationship between it. The result of a study also suggests that television viewed during childhood may affect the social reality beliefs a person holds as an adult. Accordingly, a study also focuses on the potential effect of childhood television viewing on social reality beliefs during adulthood. The focus of the study will be childhood exposure to television genres that tends to be violent. Given that it has been argued and demonstrated that measuring exposure to violent content is a more appropriate method for cultivation analysis than measuring overall television exposure level. I read another research paper which was done by Nicole Martins and Kristen Harrison. They shows that how television exposure is associated with overall self-esteem in the children. They also measured the amount of television viewing in elementary school children and their overall level of self-esteem after television exposure over time. They found that higher levels of television viewing predicted lower self-esteem for white girls, black girls, and black boys, but higher self-esteem for white boys. This relationship indicates that exposure to portrayals of white males on television, which tend to be positive, and those of black men and women, and white women, which tend to be negative, shape the way children understand their own identities. I think that's enough for today. Kindly subscribe my channel because I will come up with a new video lecture so that you can get my next lecture easily. Thank you so much and best of luck.